Who will be our next champion? Welcome to Law and Society. Please subscribe and let's talk about this. At this time, the Democratic Party is in sort of disarray in a sense that there is leadership that we've had for quite some time, like Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer. Hakeem Jeffries is new. Before that, we had Nancy Pelosi for quite some time. But the idea is, who will be our champion, meaning the champion of the American people? We are learning quite clearly and very quickly that Donald Trump is not a champion of the American people. He's a champion for himself. He's a champion for his own vengeance. He's a champion for Vladimir Putin. He's a champion for those who pay him. He's a champion for his oligarchs. He's champion for Elon Musk. But he is not a champion for you and me. Donald Trump is not our champion. So who will be our next champion? As I've talked before, Donald Trump rode in on this idea of populism, that I care about you. The first thing I'm going to do is bring prices down. And then he has just completely, neglected those promises and broken those promises. So the first step for us is to adhere to the truth, to make sure that when we say something, we commit to it and we get that done. We see champions of past, like Bernie Sanders, who is now a party elder. He's an independent, but he draws not just from the Democratic Party majority, but also a big chunk of what is now MAGA Trumpism. Because the people who believe that Donald Trump is a populist are realizing quickly that not only does Donald Trump not adhere to the truth, he's also not about economic populism, which is to make sure that the working American has a living wage, which is to make sure that the working American can reach the middle class, working class people. There are a lot of people who are middle class because we want upward mobility for as many people as possible. So that requires focus on the masses. That is not what Donald Trump is doing. He preached populism, but he is peddling monarchy, of course, because he called himself king. That was a slip of the tongue that kind of was correct. But he is now a dictator among oligarchs who only cares about the good of himself, not the people. So this is not populism, this is authoritarian oligarchy. So who is going to be, I'll keep my eyes on Bernie Sanders as the person who will probably put his weight towards and in favor of whoever the next champion may be. That next champion may be Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, because she's one of the primary people to rise out and stand up against this administration and the corruption that's ongoing in front of our eyes. Maybe our next champion will be a senator. Maybe our next champion will be somebody we don't know. We don't know yet who that will be, but we want them to adhere to the truth. We want their words to have meaning. We want the populism that brings with it a living wage for the working class and upward mobility for middle class. And to help with that, we need to look at the greater good, the importance of collective bargaining and unions, the importance of the government that gets taxes from its people, providing services. by taxing the rich as fairly as you would regular citizens, to get rid of tax loopholes that allows billionaires to not pay any taxes for years and years and years because they get to declare losses in other parts of their businesses and some other tax loophole that helps them effectively pay no tax, while regular Americans have to pay taxes on their income. It's just being fair. It's not being anti-corporate or anti-capitalism, but it's being fair and pro-democracy because it keeps up a government that provides services to everybody, not just the wealthy. To be able to have free healthcare and free education because we pay the taxes. And if the taxes were paid by the ultra rich the same way as it is paid by everybody else, then we will have enough money not just to have free health and free education, but also to double our funding for foreign assistance. Something that we need as a force for good in the world, something that we need for our own security, to stave off extremism and to do something good for the people who are in need. We as an American people have been generous to the world for the last 80 years. And Donald Trump is rolling that back, rolling that legacy back of generations. And it is up to us to say that we are going to move forward with that. We're going to deal with that by taxing the rich, by getting the money from where it is stashed, where it is loopholed and wired away. And then we're going to tackle the issues of everyday citizens so they also have the opportunities that a lot of other people had to get rich or to be able to at least comfortably live a life, maybe take a vacation once a year and not have to break the bank to do it. Then we have to focus on the climate crisis, the infrastructure that needs to be built for the climate crisis. We have to make sure that the Biden era infrastructure plans keep moving without any hindrance. Donald Trump is already withholding funding from some of these plans, and he probably will from more as days move on. But remember, these are laws. Donald Trump's duty is to faithfully execute the laws of the United States. That's part of the Take Care Clause. Take care that the laws are faithfully executed. That's Donald Trump's job. Withholding funding is not within the president's power. To not enforce something that has been legislated by Congress and signed by a president into law, not enforcing that is not within the sitting incumbent president's power. Even if it was him who signed the law into reality and now it just does not fit his narrative, his needs for cutting the taxes on the rich. We need to focus on getting renewable technology and electric vehicles and alternative technologies that move away from non-renewable energy. And we are moving in that direction, and Donald Trump is trying to stop us. We need to be able to have bodily autonomy, and that begins with reproductive rights. We need to have gender rights so there isn't a constant attack on gender and sexual minorities, and we don't become we don't have to take the brunt of attacks. Currently, transgender members of my community, the LGBTQ plus community, are having a hard time because Donald Trump is targeting them over and over and over again, banning them from the military, saying that if you teach anything that is DEI, that has anything to do with transgender, we're going to cut off federal funding. Those things harm and deter society. Somebody who is born transgender doesn't want to make their lives more difficult. Nobody wants to make their lives difficult. I didn't want to make my life difficult by being gay. That's not what people want. It's not a fashionable thing to do. And we have existed as long as humanity has existed. And we're not going anywhere. Then we have to find within the champion these values of protecting the Constitution, of defending the rule of law, of rejecting oligarchy and accepting the responsibility that you are president to all the people, even those who didn't vote for you. To reject the corporate welfare state. To say that no, we're not, that is the most important part of championing the next era, is to make sure that we reject that our government gives so much corporate subsidies and tax breaks and loopholes to the ultra rich and no advantages whatsoever to the poor and the middle class. That needs to be addressed. That huge disbalance that has been exaggerated and exacerbated by the COVID pandemic, that K-shaped economy, that needs to be torn down. And it needs to happen in a linear sort of way where everybody gets the opportunities that now only a select few can afford. And in that sense, I'm talking about basic things like healthcare, livable wages, education that is state of the art, not having to deal with crises on their own, like Donald Trump says, that FEMA might go away and states might have to deal with disasters. We have to stand at the line and say that these are the issues that matter to us. And who is going to be our champion? Is that going to be AOC? Is that going to be somebody we don't know today? I don't know. But I'm listening to AOC. I'm listening to Jasmine Crockett. I'm listening to Cory Booker. I'm listening to Chris Murphy. I'm listening to Bernie Sanders more than anybody, simply because I believe that he sees the vision that America needs to be. And if only his vision can come true, our country would be in such a better place. Instead, we are now sitting in a warped authoritarian regime that is dismantling our government and is the enemy within, that is going after everything that Americans have as a safety net, including our Defense Department, including the top brass of our defense. So maintaining the rule of law and protecting the Constitution and taking care that the laws be faithfully executed instead of dismantling, our champion should be talking about that. And our champion should be talking about how living wages and bringing down inflation by balancing the markets, by controlling the energy production and energy manufacturing and into the market, to change the paradigm, to discourage non-renewable energy and encourage energy companies to focus on renewable energy, whether that be wind or solar or whatever they might find. They're coming up with finding energy from the tides now. And you can harness the energy not just in large-scale wind farms, but on small scale, by small-scale designs as well. And to be able for the government to invest in that. Even if you don't believe in that there's a crisis of the climate, you have to understand that our environment gets polluted every single day because of our consumption of fossil fuels. If we can stop that from happening, we will have blue skies again, even in the cities. We will have blue skies and clear, we'll be able to see stars in the city again. Our children will be able to breathe cleaner air. You don't have to believe in, we don't have to go through the crazy climate catastrophes in such a way that we don't have any money to sustain ourselves should there be an emergency. Because we're seeing climate crises get worse and worse and worse every single year. All these things, all these issues, including holding our Defense Department as the backbone of not just our security, but global security, is something that this current authoritarian regime of Donald Trump and Elon Musk are compromising. And it is incumbent upon us to look for the champion who will stand for all of the issues, all of the things that I've talked about, and more, and who will represent all Americans. So let's keep an eye out on Bernie Sanders, AOC, Jasmine Crockett, Chris Murphy, Cory Booker, anybody else you think is doing good work on a federal level, on a state level, on a local level. Lift them up. Talk about them. Give them your support. With that said, thank you so much for listening. Please like and subscribe, and I'll talk to you soon.